Perfect. We can see the slides. All good. So this is a Get Into Teaching webinar with regards to specifically PGDE in physical education. So if it was another subject or something else you were interested in, this one will only kind of be about PE. Just so you know, we are recording this webinar, but you will not be seen or heard on that recording. It's just so that we could use it in the future, or if anybody wasn't able to make the webinar, we can put that out for them. As I'm going through the slides, if you have any questions, can you please pop them into the Q&A box? And hopefully I'll answer most of those questions throughout the slides, but if I don't, we'll get to those at the end. And we do have a member of our recruitment team with us as well, so that they can answer any questions that you may have about the actual recruitment process. So welcome, my name is Cara and I'm a teaching fellow at the University of Strathclyde here in School of Education with a specialism in physical education. I've been a physical education teacher for 15 years. Recently just started back with the university in March, but I did work for the university back in 2015. We do actually have, I run and coordinate and lead the PGDE course, but we do actually have a lecturer and professor with a background in physical education, so we are very well established in terms of that. If you have any contacts about this specific webinar or the recruitment process, then there's the email address for to get in touch with. So just a little bit about the School of Education. Well, it was founded in 1837 by David Stowe to help train teachers. And if any of you have ever known about the Jordan Hill campus that recently got demolished for flats, it was in 1913 that purpose-built campus, and in fact that's where I did my training to become a physical education teacher myself out at Jordan Hill. And in 1993 we became known as the faculty at Strathclyde. However, in 2012 we moved to the city centre campus, and what was specifically great about that for physical education is that we got some state-of-the-art facilities built that we can use, and they're second to none. We currently have about 101 academic staff at the School of Education. We do have alumni all over the world. We did a lot of recruitment in Canada, so we have a lot of alumni there, but also all over the world. And most recently in the Complete University Guide from 2020, we have been ranked 6th in the UK. So your journey to become a teacher really starts with your undergraduate degree, which is usually 3 or 4 years long. For physical education, we look mainly for a 4-year honors degree. There are some exceptions to the rule in that for applying, but we do normally look for the honors degree due to the high number of applications that we get for physical education. Then the postgraduate diploma in education is around 10 months long. It's a very intense course over those 10 months, as you can see. That gives you your teacher qualification, and you leave there with something called a standard for provisional registration from the GTCS. Once completed the PGDE, you move into the teacher induction scheme, also known as a probationary year, but you can also do this through a flexible route. And once you're completed the induction scheme, you'll be given full registration from the GTCS. You can read more a little bit about that through that GTCS website at the bottom of that screen. So just a bit of an overview of the PGDE course. Well, it's 36 weeks long, and it's based half on campus and half in the school system. All schools are placed through something called the student placement system. And we don't really have much to do with that. We generally try to use our 9 partner local authorities for the placement. But you spend a lot of time out in schools, and you get to visit 2 schools or be on placements where at 2 schools throughout that time. It's accredited by the General Teaching Council for Scotland. And you've got the opportunity on this course to achieve 120 credits at master's level. This is something that's quite new over the last few years, but this current year, 2020-21, and is the first year that we have the full 120 credits. Prior to that, it was 80 credits, I believe, but we've added in another module at master's level, which is quite good because it means that once you continue that, you essentially only have to do a dissertation and another methods course to achieve the full master's award. So the structure of the course is over 3 different modules. This is a new structure that has just began this year. So the first module is called Education Studies and Professional Values. Second module is called Professional Learning Through Inquiry. And the third module is Professional Skills, which consists of curriculum, pedagogy, and professional practice. That third module, Professional Skills, is where you do most of the learning within the physical education. Those 3 modules are related directly to the standards for provisional registration. And as I said earlier, you can receive master's credits at all their modules and at all of those modules. In fact, we default register all of our students to master's credits, and they would take the diploma credits if they didn't want to do the master credits. So a little bit about the course content for physical education. I've just put a little bit of information on this slide as to what kind of are the main things that the course entails. Now, about 4 years ago, we spent a lot of time revamping our course to really align it with contemporary physical education and looking at what was going on within national and within our international and national links that we have. So really, the course is centered along innovative methods in physical education to develop your pedagogical content knowledge. We look a lot about the history and tradition within physical education, something called the E in PE, education in physical education. We look at contemporary physical culture, meaningful physical education, and social justice issues within physical education. And something I've developed this year with the current cohort of students is really looking at developing your teacher personal vision. We also look at something called the spectrum of teaching styles, which you may have learned through coaching. But we spend most of our time looking at something called models-based practice. We cover 3 different pedagogical models in detail within the course. Those are teaching games for understanding, sport education, and cooperative learning, which are essentially models that help you teach different things within physical education. And then we also look briefly at some emerging models within the field, such as the activist approach for adolescent girls, teaching personal and social responsibility, and health-based physical education. Over this course of time, we do this through a wide variety of activities to try to give you as much different content as possible in the 18 weeks that we have with you. But you also have opportunities to plan and teach in micro-teaching groups so that you actually lead some sessions prior to going on placement, as well as developing different content and resources with your peers. It's very much that we all work together on the course to ensure that everybody gets as much out of it as possible. As I said before, you'll go into 2 different placements. So if you look at the one that says secondary, you have 2 placements in 2 different schools. The first is School A, which is 8 weeks in semester 1. It's usually done as a 2-week and then a 6-week placement. And School B is 10 weeks, and that's in semester 2, which is 2 5-week placements. In between the 5 weeks, you do return to the university for a bit. The assessment of the course is done through obviously the different modules, as well as you get assessed on placement and also on your coursework and attendance. But you get assessed in all the modules that you take through different assignments. So it's not all just essays, for example. The professional learning through inquiry is actually creating a poster. The professional skills and ability, the education studies, is an essay. And then the placement experience is actually assessed on placement. There's also an opportunity for those who want to register as dual registration. This doesn't, I have to say, happen very often with our physical education students because they generally don't have the undergraduate degrees necessary. However, this one area that we do often dual register is through the Gaelic medium, as we would have teachers who can register in both of those. So just some entry requirements for the PGDE that are set by the General Teaching Council for Scotland. So as I said before, we're looking at a degree from a higher education institution in the UK or the equivalent if you're coming from outside the UK. And we want you to have at least 80 credits relevant to physical education, sport, coaching, dance, health and fitness, exercise physiology, sport performance, sport science. There are a few others in that, but something that would be relative. Generally, sport management backgrounds don't have enough credits within that. And if you are wondering if your degree does have enough credits in it, then you can simply, send a copy through to the recruitment, and we can have a look at what you have if we think it's going to be enough credits for you. You also need to have a higher English and a Nat 5 mathematics at a grade C or above. And we do ask for applying for physical education that you have these prior to applying for the course. As I said before, we do get a high number of applications, and it's quite hard for us to go through them all. So we do ask that you have those prior to applying for the course. We would like you to have some evidence through your personal statement that you have some experience working with children in a secondary or primary school setting or a related context such as coaching. We do understand that current COVID circumstances don't always allow that right now, but hopefully you will have you've had a chance to do that prior to COVID, but that is something we certainly would take into consideration when we read your personal statement. We want you to be able to show that you have an understanding of contemporary education and what is out there right now, what are the main issues, and show that you have an ability to relate to people. So just to skim over the application process, you apply via UCAS if you're a home student or an EU student or the rest of the UK, and that closes on the 15th of January. If you're an international student, that would be via Pegasus. You send your documents to the web email address just there within 21 days of submitting your application. And then suitable candidates will be invited to an online interview. And just maybe to make another point with that, with physical education, we will have an online interview this year, but we will also have some sort of practical assessment. At the moment, I can't give you too much information about what that's going to look like. It really depends on what the guidelines are like when we think about doing that. So for example, if it's able to be done outside, it may have to be done outside. In previous years, it has been done indoors, but that's something I can't make a decision with just now, but there will be a practical assessment for physical education. And then you will be given a decision of if you're successful or unsuccessful. If you are successful with a conditional offer, then those conditions must be met by July 2021. Obviously, unconditional offers don't have any conditions to be met. If you are unsuccessful, you will have the opportunity to gain feedback if you were interviewed. Unfortunately, we are unable to give you feedback on the application process. As I said, we get a high number of applicants, so the time required for that would be unsuitable, but we would give you feedback over the phone for if you were interviewed. And then just a little bit about the fees and funding. So Scottish students can apply through SAS for some funding for your tuition fees, and there's some details there about international, EU, and the rest of the UK as to finding out a little bit more about tuition fees and scholarships that are available. And finally, there's some questions on the course webpage. So I've put there's a question dedicated to, there's a webpage dedicated to physical education. And then there's also a webpage that has some FAQs, the most common questions that are asked. So if you have any questions and they're not answered there, or we're not able to answer them today, then please get in touch with admissions, or you can speak to an admissions officer through a live chat. So that is the kind of general overview of what the PGDE course entails and what the application process is like. So we'll just maybe take any questions that are coming from the chat. So I could see there about the currently gaining or studying a higher English. Leah, do you have anything more about that?
Sorry, so the first question is, would you offer a conditional offer if an applicant is currently studying higher English? So unfortunately in this case, no, as Cara has explained, that for PE, we receive a really high volume of applications to the PGDE programme, and therefore we need applicants to have their higher English and their National 5 Maths in place before they apply. So in your case, Jack, you would need to look at gaining the higher qualification this year and then apply for the next session in 2022 if you don't have your qualification already. That's not the case for all of our PGDE subjects, so please don't be confused, but for this particular one, PE, we do require you to have it in place before. Yeah. Okay, so we've got another question here from Gavin, who is asking, does sports studies degrees come under this category?
I think so. It sounds like it, Gavin. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, so Gavin, what would be most helpful is if you went to the website, the course page that Cara just shared there, and we have a full list of all the different modules that you would need to, or sorry, all the different credits that you would need. So you need 80 credits within a certain list. And what you would do is go and get a copy of your transcript and then compare the two. If you're still feeling a bit confused about that, then the best thing to do would be to send us an email with a copy of that transcript, and we would be able to take a look at it from there. It's very difficult to tell from just the title of a degree. We have to know what the individual modules within your degree. So a copy of your transcript is the best way for that.
It sounds like it though, Gavin. It's just like you can't confirm it until we actually would see it. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Let's see. Have we got anything else? I think we've just got the two questions so far. Oh, here's another one here. Just feel free to
how many
questions in.
Yeah. So this one's from Graham, says roughly how many applications do you receive, how many interviews do you hold, and how many spaces are available on the course? Well, if I want to base that on the previous couple of years, Graham, we have received in excess of 300 applications per year in the last couple of years, and that's been quite general. The Scottish government has not yet released how many places that we have. They kind of look at the how many PE teachers we need to recruit, but generally we have around 16 places. That could change slightly, but we can't confirm that until the Scottish government give us those numbers. In terms of interviews, we generally interview about a third of the applicants, usually about 90. We have usually have 3 interview days with 30 applicants on the day. Obviously, we interview as many applicants as we feel from their application are suitable, but we try to keep that to the word 90. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got another question from Paul. Where can you find the slides if you want to look back at them for more information? Paul, if you would like to send us an email to the email address on the first slide, has-pg-inquiries@strath.ac.uk, then we can arrange to send those slides over to you. That wouldn't be a problem. We can do that after. You just need to email us to prompt us to do it, because I wouldn't like you to share your email address here in this forum.
Do you want me to put them into the chat and then people can have a copy that are here?
If you can do that, yeah.
I think I can. It might be useful rather than having to have them on the day. Let me just try. I think I need to actually close them. Give me a second.
No problem.
Oh, I don't know if it'll let me do it on a webinar. No, it won't. Sorry. But feel free to email us and I'll send you a copy of this. I'll send them to Leah, and if you're welcome to email me directly as well, and I'll send you a copy of the slides. That's no problem.
Okay, we've got another question from Megan. What documents need to be sent away within 21 days? So Megan, when you apply via UCAS, when we receive your application, we'll take a look at it and see all the information that you've listed on there. And then if we feel that you are qualified and that we might consider you for interview, then we would send you an email asking you to send us in some documents. So the documents that we're likely looking for are a copy of your degree certificate, which states the outcome of your degree, so the final classification of your degree, a copy of your transcript, so that's a document which shows a full breakdown of all the modules that you've sat, and then a copy of your SQA certificate, which shows you have the higher English at grade C or above and National 5 at grade C or above. Or if you're an international student, it would be international equivalents to those documents that I've just mentioned. So generally those 3 documents. So it's quite good if you're applying to try and get those documents ready now, so that it speeds up the process for the interview. Sometimes we can't interview you if we don't have these documents in place, or if we wanted to make you an offer and we don't have these documents, it holds everything up. So particularly for your transcript, sometimes you'll find that universities take a while to provide that, especially during COVID just now. So get a head start and just get a copy of that now while you can. I think we've had a few more come in there. So a question from Carla. Is there particular sports experience that you prefer?
That's a hard question, Carla. Not necessarily, but if you think about if you were to become a teacher of physical education, you would be teaching a variety of different activities and sports. That being said, that doesn't mean that you have a specialist of sports. Generally, we get a range of different sports from different students. So for example, you'll have hockey players, football players, dancers, gymnasts, anything at all. You will be assessed on your practical performance in a range of activities as well. So we don't just assess you in one thing. So we're looking at kind of how well you can adapt to a different range of activities. Hopefully that answered your question.
Okay, so another question from Carla. Will you consider applicants in their final year of honours degree? So yes, Carla, we can consider those who have a degree pending. So when you're making your UCAS application, it's very important that you put in your degree, even though you might not have finished it yet. So it'll ask you for pending qualifications, and you need to put that in, or it might be phrased as in progress qualifications. But either way, we need to see that. If you don't detail your degree, there is a chance that we will reject your application because we think that you don't have or are not working towards an undergraduate degree. Okay. When do you apply for UCAS? Would this be the start of 4th year? So yes, so you apply for UCAS in the year before you want to start studying. So for people who want to start studying in August, this coming August 2021, you would make your application now. And the applications open in the autumn, so they generally open in late September, early October via UCAS. And you need to submit it for the 15th of January for the year that you want to study. So in this case, the deadline is the 15th of January 2021. So a question from Graham. What's a key bit of guidance you would give for writing a personal statement and choosing a referee for your application? So for personal statements, there is good advice on the UCAS website. It's quite difficult to provide guidance on that, as your personal statement needs to be individual to you. It needs to show your passion for the subject that you're interested in. We want you to be specific towards your passion for physical education and as well as teaching. And it's a good idea to try and do a wee bit of research about the current curriculum, or if you have been given the opportunity to get some experience working with children either in schools. Working in a classroom is really valuable, but as we understand that during COVID, that's not always possible at the moment. So other types of working with children is also fine. Put that in your personal statement and try and reflect on that and what you've learnt from those experiences, especially the ones that are outside the classroom. Try and reflect and show how you can bring that knowledge into the classroom. So doing a wee bit of research, a bit of desk research in advance can be quite helpful for your personal statement. But as I say, it's quite hard to give personal advice because it has to be individual to you. For your referee, we look generally for an academic reference. That is the best reference that you can give. However, if you've been out of education for a while, we understand you might not have a current connection with an academic, and in that instance, you could look to use somebody that you've been volunteering with, where you've been working with children, as an alternative. You can also, if you feel it's more appropriate to use, like, say, a head teacher because you've been volunteering in a school rather than an academic reference, and that's okay too. Hopefully that answers your question. If there's anything else, just come back.
Yeah.
So a question from Ben is there any undergraduate courses you would recommend to do before?
So there's a few different courses out there. Strathclyde have one themselves in our undergraduate program called Sport in the Community, that we do often get students come and do the PGDE after that. We get a lot of students come from UWS from their sport coaching degrees. Abertay University also have sports science type degree. I don't know all the details of what all these degrees are called, but you know, those are some of those that we generally take our students from. Any sport related degree where you've particularly had experience with coaching particularly would be helpful, but as well as being able to prove yourself in the academic side of things.
Okay. Just as an aside to that, Ben, if you haven't started your undergraduate studies yet, it might be an idea just to go on to the PGDE course page, have a look at that list of credits that we're looking for, and then go on to investigate other universities' undergraduate courses and sort of match them up. You might not be able to find all of the information on the website, but I'm sure if you contact the relevant undergraduate degree course leader or admissions team, they'd be able to provide you some advice on that to see if it meets those requirements. So Carla has another question. What month do you make offers for the course? So offers are made on a rolling basis, just depending on when the interview process comes. And I think you already said, Cara, that you don't exactly have an idea yet of when you'll be doing those interviews. Is that right?
No. Well, last year we did them in February, and just based on the current situation with COVID, I think we would probably try to look around that time again. It allows us to have be a little bit further forward. If we had them right now in December or January, it would be a bit more difficult in terms of the practical assessment of things. And I see there's a message in the chat about what sport activities we get assessed on, so I'll just come to that afterwards. So we do make offers as and when. We also try to have our interviews back to back. So we have them, let's say 3 Fridays in a row in February. So you would know within a few weeks. That is still my plan completely, to do that again. And I hope that we will be able to do that. So interviews, you know, coming towards the end of January into February, and all the offers will be made right away. On the first day, we begin to make offers. Sometimes we wait till the 3rd day. We keep people until the 3rd day and then make our final offers at that point. In terms of the sport and activities that you get assessed on, there's a message in the chat there from Sean. So again, in previous years, when we've been able to go indoors, you know, we've assessed you on gymnastics, individual performance in gymnastics, a group performance in dance, and then a team or games performance, which has in the past been, you know, basketball or badminton or something like that. At the moment, I hope to plan to do a very similar format that we've always had for the practical assessment. However, that will be determined on what areas I can use. So if it's outside, I probably can still try to do something very similar, but I might have to just change it. So, but it is a variety. It's not just all games. It's not just all dance. It's not just all gymnastics. So it will be a variety.
Okay, great. So I've got another question from Gavin. Does having the highest class of degree or higher English play a big part of selection, or does previous experience with coaching and teaching play a bigger part? So all I can say about that, Gavin, is that we take the whole application into account. So all contextual information is reviewed when we look at a personal statement. Now, for the degree and the higher English and the maths, they're not flexible. They're set by the General Teaching Council for Scotland. So if you don't have higher English, then your application could never be successful, unfortunately. For the degree requirement, again, we're looking for you to have the second class honours degree, so you need to have that in place. We can't be flexible on those. We do look at experience with coaching and teaching, and that is obviously very relevant. So I would always recommend that you put that in your personal statement, that you've got that. However, we can't take that in place of qualifications, but we're looking for applications that have it all, really.
Yeah, just to add to what Leah was saying there, we do get 300 applications per year, so we have to take in both measures, whether it's your degree classification and qualification and your experience, to narrow it down to the 100 people that we are going to interview.
Okay. A question from Kieran. How will the interview or selection process differ to previous years?
So really, as much as I'm trying to is align it as we always do to keep it fair. The only difference being is that generally what we've done is in the morning you would have had your interview, discussion, presentation part in the morning, and in the afternoon was your practical assessment. So the morning part will be done online this year, so that it would be a one-to-one interview done online, and then the practical assessment will be very similar. The criteria is still very similar to what we did. We've actually created the criteria in PE, have been using across the board in all subjects now, because we are quite stringent on how we do it. So yeah, a lot of the selection it's very similar, just the interview bit is going to be online.
And there was another question here. Again, this says, is there a key piece of information you're looking for in the personal statement? But I assume that you probably put that in before I answered the last time, and I think we've kind of covered everything. If there wasn't anything else that you had to add to that, Cara.
No, there's, we're just looking for a personal statement that tells us about you. It's very personal to you, and we want to know a little bit about you through this. It's not about just throwing in some words there that don't tell us much about you. So we want to know what you're all about in that personal statement.
Yeah. Okay. We can give you guys a couple of minutes if any